my name is Rick Bergmann, and my faith journey has been exciting is a good word. It's been bumpy, and there's been a lot of turns and twists, but I think in the end, I'm headed in the right direction. You know, I've been coming to Emmanuel since I was quite little, and my family wasn't what you would call a church family, so they would drop me off at Sunday school and pick me up. And, it went like that for a few years. And around third grade, there became some Sundays when I realized I didn't want to go to Sunday school. And I had Miss Wells at the time, and every single week that I missed, she would send a postcard. We missed you, we're saving your seat for you, we hope you come back soon. And it occurred to me that even in third grade, somebody wanted me here. So I continued to come and went through all the usual programs here at Emmanuel. You know, I was confirmed here, and I was a youth here, and I had wonderful youth leaders who taught me so much. By the time I got to be an older teenager, I had such a feeling of a high self-esteem, and I think that was because of the youth leaders that were here. And you know, it wasn't always easy, but I was surrounded by friends and people who nurtured me and guided me when I was doing wrong, and it was a great feeling to be around that. You know, and my first big hurdle came when I was a senior in high school. My father's youngest brother, whom I was very close to, committed suicide. It was a lot of questioning on my part as to why God would allow that to happen. And if God existed, how could a God who proclaims to be loving allow so much hurt and pain to happen, not only to myself, but to the uncle that I lost? That how could he let someone be so hurt and distraught that the only recourse they felt was to take their own life? And that was a really big struggle. And at the time, the youth leader that we had was Dell Russell, and Dell saw that I was struggling, and she had become very close to my family. She would take me aside and just talk to me and let me rant and get my feelings out. But she also agreed to conduct my uncle's funeral. And, she did such a lovely job. My family was so pleased with it. And, it was a day of utter sadness that, I think that day it really hit me that he was gone, and it was a very trying day for me. And she spent a lot of the day with me after the service, just comforting me. And that was a milestone that and the fact that she did that kind of turned me towards understanding that even though God allows pain to happen, he also is giving in love. And that was a huge event for me. And then as I got older and got out of my teen years, I began to help as an assistant youth leader in the church. And then at one point I became the youth leader, and I was the youth leader for a long time here. And during that time, I had a lot of struggles. The pastor and I did not always see eye to eye. And because of that, and I allowed myself to remove myself from worship almost completely. Unless the youth were involved in worship somehow, like on a youth Sunday, I didn't come to worship. And because of my disagreements with the pastor over certain things, and some trivial things and some not so trivial, I excluded myself from almost 10 years of worship, which I did a disservice to myself in doing that. I didn't really start coming back to worship until Pastor Daniel came along, and Pastor Daniel really kind of showed me that we can disagree, but that you still need spiritual nourishment, and that worship is part of that. So I began to sit on the worship committee and learned a lot and went through a lot, and we kind of built up the 9 o'clock service. And as I kind of got into it and realized what I had been missing, I could have almost kicked myself, really, for the 10 years of worship that I missed, because even though I didn't necessarily agree with what the pastor was saying all the time, I would have gotten something out of it But in the end, you have to realize that he is doing things for a reason, and you're not always privy to it. And that's my biggest struggle is realizing to put things in God's hands, even though I don't always understand it.